Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I am a licensed Zumba instructor and a business partner with the Juice Plus Company. My mission in life is to help people understand that life is better when they're dancing through it and to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. I think, you know what, we get one body while we're here on the earth, and I believe we're supposed to be happy and healthy in it. And we're also supposed to spread joy and happiness in the world while we're here. And so one of the things that I find a lot of joy in is learning from a lot of different people. And in my life, I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool people, and they all have things to share and to teach us. And one of the people that I get to talk to today is Mike Reeves. And here locally, Mike Reeves is known as the weather guy. And so I just find it fascinating. And I want to know how somebody gets interested in this and then what they use to sort of do their own forecasting when you're not a real weather guy, right? And so, Mike, you are a retired teacher. You worked at the Farmington School District here in Southeast Missouri. You also are a radio guy and you do sports for like the St. Louis area and Columbia. So you're covering Cardinals, you're covering the Blues, you're covering the Missouri Tigers, and probably anything and everything in between, right?
Exactly. If the sports in the area and they need a reporter, give me a call. I am almost certainly going to be the one that'll be on that. So it's a very busy retired life, but no complaining whatsoever. It's a pretty cool way to spend your retirement years.
That is good. I know that, in the classroom, what did you teach in the classroom? What grade level?
I had middle school for most of my 31 years. 27 of my 31 years were at middle school, teaching health. And then we did some things with sports broadcasting as an elective class that the kids were able to take. I did some current events classes, some physical education along the way. In 31 years, they kind of moved me back and forth between things, but a health teacher is what most people will probably remember from the middle school days, 27 years of that.
So, you have a very broad background. And what I always try to help people remember is that it doesn't matter what somebody's background is, really. Like you could be the smartest person ever, or you could come from who knows what. You could have completely different views on politics, religion, everything. And yet every single person has a story to share and something to teach that we can all learn from. And so I am fascinated by the fact that you are known as the weather guy. Like on Facebook, it's Mike Reeves Weather Reports. You are not trained in this. So tell us how this happened.
Julie, it's really odd, the whole story and how it kind of blew up. Honestly, I never thought the weather page would become something that a lot of people across the area would, as they say, it's my go-to when the weather gets bad, especially winter weather. Julie, I started off when I grew up, my dad was a roofing contractor in Southeast Missouri, small town, Clarkton, Missouri. Maybe not familiar with Clarkton, but it's near Kennett and Malden and some of those towns people are a little more familiar with. Julie, everything in our life was, for my dad, revolved around weather because there's so many things that he couldn't or could do in his roofing job, depending on what the weather would be the next day. Hey, we're supposed to tear off a roof tomorrow. Wait a minute, there is a strong chance of rain. We can't rip a roof off if it's going to rain. That won't work. Certain roofing materials only work best at this temperature. Well, how hot's it going to be tomorrow? All those things. And this is way, way back before the days of internet and social media. So we watched the weather religiously, I would almost say, at our house. My dad made sure weather comes on at 5:12 on the local TV. Hey guys, we can't miss the weather. And then at night at 10 o'clock. So I got interested in it. I watched the weather and watched it with my dad and learned the basics, the cold fronts, the warm fronts, high pressure systems, low pressure systems, and what it meant to people's world. Even today, Julie, do you realize how many times we make our plans around oh, what's it going to be like on this day or that day? Hey, we were thinking about having a picnic.
For sure.
Oh, wait, yeah, it's going to rain on Saturday. Let's push the picnic to Sunday. Looks like it's going to rain.
Right.
All those things. So that's what piqued my interest initially as a young, I mean, I'm talking middle school age kid, that I followed the weather because of my dad.
Right. So were you one of those kids that got the Encyclopedia Britannica out and started studying the weather and barometric pressure and humidity levels and everything from the encyclopedia? Because that's what we had back then, right?
Well, I got all my information came from listening to the weather forecasters of that time. It was just what we did. I'd listened and learned, and they would explain things like, well, with the low pressure, the air will rotate in this direction. It'll be counterclockwise. High pressure will rotate clockwise. And I started, and they talked about that a lot. And I picked up on that. And okay, well, the cold front will do this. It moves in from the northwest and moves southeast. And that's why you're going to wake up today and it'll be 85 degrees. And then by tonight, it'll be 55. We all know in Missouri, we can have those extremes because of the fronts and the systems that move through. Didn't really just dive into it, just learned by listening to these guys and watching them on TV. And of course, the radio weather forecasters as well in the area. I always was tuned into them as well.
Right. So were you guys Farmer's Almanac people? Did you go by the almanac at all? Did you go check the woolly worms and the persimmons and all the things that are the telltale signs of what's to come?
I remember discussions of it, but I don't think anybody ever took it as a serious. It was more fun. Oh, this year is supposed to be a bad winter. It's supposed to be a mild winter, and all of the different tales that you get from that. As far as taking it seriously, I wouldn't say that I did. Today, even though I like to see what the almanac's going to say about different things,
right?
But weather is so incredibly hard to forecast, even when you have all the tools at your disposal. So to take a book and say a year out, here's what we should see and not see, the accuracy of it isn't good enough for me to put much into, but I understand why it's fun for people.
Right, exactly. So what I find really interesting is that, we do have the weather at our fingertips. There's so many apps that we can look at that tell you minute by minute. We get notifications on our phones. Oh, the rain will start at 1:24 p.m. and whatever. And then it's wrong. A lot of times, most of the time it's wrong. And yet I find it so interesting that you're right so many times that like TV or my app is wrong. And so I'm wondering, is that just luck of the draw? Or have you just paid more attention to things in a way that some of the professionals are just relying on the computer models? Like what's the catch here?
I will tell you, particularly with severe weather and winter weather a lot, I have my own thinking that the professionals sometimes are so in need, and I understand it, it's part of the business. They need they need viewers, they need page clicks, they need to have that. And because of that, you're going to get more interest if you overhype a weather event than if you undersell the event.
Right.
That's why I think so often, Julie, you see it all the time around here, a week ahead of a weather system. Oh my gosh, it's going to be, if it's a winter storm, it looks like 8 to 10 inches of snow. And then by the time it actually arrives, it's like, okay, we barely even got snow.
Right.
I think they jumped the gun to try, and I understand.
Because they want to keep you going back and checking. Is it really going to be that bad? Do I have to go and buy all the toilet paper and whatever?
And I have a general rule, Julie. It's pretty simple with the winter weather forecast. Don't pay attention to anything more than 48 hours out.
Right.
If they're talking on Monday that next weekend is going to be a big winter storm, it's okay to note that. It's okay to put it in your mind that, oh, we may have some weather. But when they start throwing things out like it'll be 8 inches of snow, we don't often know. As far as weather's concerned, the night before a winter storm hits, sometimes we don't know what it's going to do. So to tell somebody a week ahead of time, no. My methods are no different. I'm using the same weather models and charts that the professionals are using because they're available online. You can just go in today, if anybody wanted to do it, and put weather models in a search engine, hit it, and it'll bring up all sorts of weather models you can look at and you can study. You can study the exact same things that the professionals are studying. And then if you have enough interest, you can try to learn what all those models mean and how they play out. And I tend to use those and then past history. I tend to look a lot, if a low pressure system is tracking across Arkansas and the temperatures are this, all right, the last 5 times that happened, here's what kind of weather we got. That to me is more important. And I tend to use that. And is it foolproof? Of course not. Nothing in the weather will be. But right. That tends to be a little more of the way I go. And I tend to wait longer. And I think waiting longer gives you a chance to be more accurate with what you're trying to tell people. I think that's a big key.
You're not trying to sell commercial time on your Facebook page. But I will say that most of the people that I know locally, they're all about, well, we're just going to check what Mike says, because it is usually right. And so we appreciate that. So can you teach us a few things about, right before I hit the record button, I'm like, so can you tell me why is it so annoying when there's such high humidity that, the hair just goes bonkers? Like, I get it sort of, but what is the barometric pressure and what does that have to do with these people who have arthritis or migraines? And, how does that all work? How's it all tied together?
I think a lot of those things, it's really basic stuff. But to me, the dew points are crucial to how we feel. We'll talk summer since we're sitting here in August. This week that we just went through was horrible because dew point levels, and most people call that humidity. It's not the same thing. If you want to know how awful it's going to feel outside, Julie, look at the dew points on your weather apps. If it's 70 or above, it's going to feel awful and your hair is going to do all of its crazy stuff. And our dew points this past week were in the mid 70s with temperatures in the mid 90s. Well, we all know what that does.
It's all the horrible mix. Yes.
Yes. And for people that have those things, like, all right, you'll hear somebody say, my arthritis is acting up. It's usually that's temperature related. A lot of times it can be moisture related where, there's a front moving in, but a lot of times that's more, it's going to get cold. I can tell from those things. Julie, to me, the most of the weather stuff is basic stuff. How much moisture is in the atmosphere? What are the dew points? And then what is the actual air temperature? Those are the things that tell us how we're going to feel. If you get, I've tried to explain to people who don't live in humidity dew point areas, they don't understand that. You'll tell them, well, it's 88 and it's horrible here. And they'll look at you and go, well, we have 88 here all the time. It feels great. I'm like, you don't have the dew points and the humidity to go with it. And so whenever you're talking about all these different terms, all of them are very easily, I would say, researched or studied. But if you just wanted to keep it real simple, for Missouri, to me, I want to know, well, what's the air temperature? What's the dew point going to be? And then you watch the fronts as they track across the country.
Right.
And that gives you all the information you need to know. That's very simplistic. But if you know those things, you get a real good idea of how the weather is going to affect your day and how you're going to feel. And you can also kind of track what's coming up down the road by looking at the maps and just follow the low pressure systems in the fronts. It's
right.
I say it's not complicated. Maybe other people just don't have the interest in it that I do, but weather is not overly complicated, except at the highest levels that some of the guys study it. But for what I do, it's not.
Right. Like whenever so this will probably go live and be published a little closer to the fall weather moving in. And so that's a completely different circumstance, because then we start getting into more severe weather because of the temperature changes in the Midwest. And then, of course, there's the hurricane season, which is always crazy for those people that live along the coast. And do you follow the hurricanes in the American model or the European model or all of those things? And have you ever gotten interested in sort of doing your own forecast to see how yours matches up with what really happens?
I'm very interested in big weather events like the hurricanes. Now, to just study them and know, because of where I live and where we are,
right?
It does. I don't put this much emphasis or focus in it, but the fact that a weather system of that magnitude can develop and what goes into something that stretches hundreds of miles and can affect that many people. That part is just, every time there is a hurricane watch or warning for the Gulf or for the East Coast, I will sit with the Weather Channel on at my house instead of watching TV. I just love to watch what it does. And you always, with any weather situation, the perfect scenario is that it's a mega weather event that's fun to follow and hopefully doesn't cause damage or loss of life. I know I hate the aspect that sometimes all these events that are so fun to cover and they're so interesting from a scientific standpoint, you also know that they can put people at risk. That part's rough to deal with.
Right.
But I love, and the way that the Gulf systems can affect us in the Midwest. Julie, that's what's so crazy is that you can watch something in the Gulf and then all of a sudden that's going to affect our weather. And sometimes people don't understand, oh, there's a hurricane that's going to hit Louisiana. And I live in Missouri. I don't care. Nope, you're going to care.
It will make it here eventually. Yes.
Yes.
It might hit and then do this before it actually gets here, but most likely we will feel some kind of something from it. Have you ever wanted to do the storm chasing?
Yes, I've wanted to. I don't have myself individually the resources and the ability that I could go out and do it. What I would have loved to have done, there are storm chasing tours that actually exist. You can research them.
How do you even schedule something like that?
It's very random, of course. There's no guarantee, Julie, that whenever you go out, you'll get to see a tornado or see a severe weather event, but there are places there are places that schedule them. You can go out for like a week or 10 days during the height of tornado type seasons, and they will take you with them. And I've always had an interest in it. It's not cheap. I looked at some of that too. Yes, storm chasing. There's obviously that thrill of seeing that kind of weather up close, and then there's the fear of, is it really worth the possibility of being injured, or there have been storm chasers killed in their jobs? That part is like, okay, I got to draw the line somewhere, but I would love to do it. I guess I'm one of those that I would like that guarantee that you won't get me in a spot that I could get hurt, but I do want to see it. And they'll tell you up front, we can't guarantee you anything, but I would love to get one chance to go out on a Midwestern storm chasing expedition and see a couple of the major storms up close. I would love doing that.
It would be fascinating to see that kind of power, because weather is nature. Yeah, we cannot change what happens, but we are changing what our planet is like, which affects our weather. And then it's this constant cycle, right, of give and take, give and take, give and take. Where there's more water, there's going to be different types of weather than like in California and Oregon and Washington, where the drought is terrible. You're not going to have the same types of weather events. And so I want to thank you for being our weather guy here. And I never know if 5 people or 50 people or 500 people will see this video, but if there's something that you would like to tell anybody that happens to be watching, the 5 people that are seeing this video, what would you like to tell them in our last couple of minutes here?
The first thing is, if you've got something in your life that you like and enjoy and want to do, just do it. This thing for me was just strictly for fun. I used to try to tell teachers, they would ask me, do you think we'll have a snow day tomorrow? Do you think we'll be off tomorrow? That's where I started posting some things on Facebook, and all of a sudden somebody said, you ought to make it just make it a page, have a whole
I remember when that happened. We're like,
yes.
We're all going to go over to the new page.
I know. And if you've got stuff like that, regardless what it is, if you have that and there's an interest, pursue it, see what happens with it. It's been a blast. My family thinks it's hilarious because they've been out places and they've been like, oh, has he posted the new update yet? And they're like, we're wanting to look at him and go, he's just a regular old guy. He's not a professional, but pursue those things. Julie, if you got something that you like doing, do it. I have a blast with it. It is so much fun. And especially when weather is ever changing. I love that part of it. And I like posting and seeing how many people respond to it. And so if you've got that in any interest at all in anything, pursue it and have fun with it.
Well, and that is a great way to end this, because that's exactly what these conversations are about, is finding a way to bring more joy to our souls, to our lives. And that you've found a way to do that for yourself, especially in retirement. So happy retirement. Keep telling us what the weather is going to do. And we appreciate you, Mike.
Thank you, Julie.